5 hours on the road will drain anyone. But for Juhi, who is 7 months pregnant, the drive to her husband Raunak's newly assigned company apartment is grueling. They arrive at flat 18 completely exhausted, expecting a quiet place to rest. The property's security guard comes out to greet them, but his reaction breaks every rule of standard hospitality. He locks onto Juhi's pregnant belly, stumbles backward in absolute terror, and practically begs the couple to stay at a hotel instead. Raunak shuts the guard down immediately. As a pragmatic civil engineer, he relies on logic. They have keys to a free, furnished apartment, and convenience easily overrules the irrational fears of a stranger. But the moment they step inside, the environment begins to test that logic. As they tour the surprisingly spacious rooms, a distinct shadow, one clutching the silhouette of a child's doll, silently trails them down the hallway. The apartment reacts to their arrival immediately. Flat 18 operates as an active, hostile environment, and its hostility is entirely focused on Juhi's pregnancy. At 1:30 in the morning, the psychological unease turns into physical contact. Juhi wakes up to the sensation of a rough, unnaturally hot hand pressing down firmly onto her stomach. The heat causes severe burning pain. Yet when Raunak turns on the lights, Juhi's skin shows zero physical burn marks. Along with the physical touch comes an auditory signature. Juhi begins hearing a specific repeating lullaby, Chanda Hetu, meaning "you are my moon," drifting through the empty rooms. The haunting then expands its radius. A local maid arrives the next morning to help Juhi, only to be confronted by a black cat with glowing red eyes. As the maid retreats to the elevator, the cat morphs into a dark, weeping shadow. This encounter proves immediately fatal. The terrified woman collapses, bleeding heavily from her ears, nose, and mouth, until she dies right there in the hallway. This poses a grim mechanical question about the haunting. The entity inflicted lethal, blunt force trauma on a complete outsider, yet its actions toward Juhi are highly specific, possessive, and focused entirely on the unborn child. The escalation reaches its peak late one evening. The phantom lullaby fills the room again, and Juhi's unborn baby begins kicking frantically in perfect synchronization with the melody, a violent movement that Raunak cannot feel at all. The shadow materializes directly on their bed. Staring at the couple, the entity explicitly declares ownership, stating that the child belongs to her and that she is taking it. To execute this, the entity neutralizes the only protector in the room. The spectral black cat materializes again, launching at Raunak and savagely maiming his face to keep him pinned down. With Raunak incapacitated, the ghost places a long, spectral hand directly over Juhi's stomach. A shockwave of agonizing pain forces Juhi to the floor. By the time the violence stops and Juhi loses consciousness, her pregnancy is over. The events in Flat 18 lack the chaotic signatures of a typical haunting. This was a calculated, targeted extraction of a biological child by a spectral force. To understand why this specific extraction happened, we have to look at the property's hidden history. Following the incident, the terrified security guard finally confesses the original sin of Flat 18. The previous occupants were a married couple struggling with infertility. The wife descended into severe mental illness, coping by nursing a plastic doll and constantly singing the exact lullaby Juhi heard, Chanda Hetu. This diagram maps out the transactional relationships of those previous tenants. Following a doctor's advice, the husband and wife hired a surrogate. However, the surrogate weaponized the pregnancy, threatening to take the baby away unless the husband married her. Staying with this map, we see the husband's solution to the blackmail. Prioritizing his biological child over his marriage, he locked his mentally ill wife inside Flat 18 along with her doll and burned her alive. The deaths were officially ruled a short circuit. This historical lore explains the precise triggers of the modern haunting. When the burned wife's spirit saw Juhi arrive heavily pregnant, she projected her deep, unresolved hatred of the treacherous surrogate directly onto Juhi. The entity operates exactly like a traumatized victim. She executed a delayed, misdirected vengeance to claim the child she believed was violently stolen from her years ago. The fallout for the modern couple is absolute. The trauma of losing her child completely shatters Juhi's mind, creating a grim, ironic parallel between her current psychological state and the madness of the ghost that attacked her. Back in Flat 18, the entity's behavior has permanently shifted. The shadow wandering the halls no longer cradles a plastic doll. It now holds a tightly swaddled phantom infant. Raunak eventually moves Juhi far away from the city, attempting to outrun the trauma. However, a geographic relocation offers zero real resolution when the destruction to their family structure is permanent. We are left observing an endless cyclical loop of maternal grief. The haunting mechanism of Flat 18 simply transferred severe suffering from one innocent, grieving mother to another. While the ghost's immediate obsession appears sated, the residual trauma remains permanently fused to the physical space of the apartment. It leaves an unsettling reality about the buildings we inhabit and the invisible, violent histories waiting quietly behind their locked doors.